Hello and welcome to Upper Pen. My name is Dakota, and today I am talking with Brooke Fast about her first novel, To Cage a Wild Bird. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Dakota.
So for folks who might not know what this book is yet, do you have a little spiel of it?
Oh yeah, of course. So To Cage a Wild Bird is a dystopian romance, the first in a series, and it follows Raven as she attempts to rescue her brother from a prison where wealthy citizens pay to hunt inmates for sport. And then, like along the way, there's forbidden romance and all kinds of friendships and that she makes, but that's my general pitch.
How did you get started on this book? Because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, so much. So I actually wrote To Cage a Wild Bird as a short story in 2016, during my freshman year of college. I had just written a paper on capital punishment, and I was reading another dystopian book, actually. It's called The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. If you haven't read it, it's great. So I think between both of those things, it just kind of sparked the idea. So I wrote it as a short story and kind of stowed it away. And then in 2023, I was watching Divergent with a few of my friends and I just remembered it. And all of a sudden, I was like, I need to turn this into a novel. And yeah, here we are.
Was the short story very similar to the book, or is it quite different?
Um, I mean, both, right? But so the short story was basically just following a hunter visiting the prison, actually. So I used a lot of the elements in the story and to expand the world. But Raven didn't exist in that story. Um, and yeah, so it changed quite a bit. I did a lot more research compared to where I was when I first wrote it. But there are definitely elements that are still there, which is cool. It's like it's been so long.
So did you just start with this idea of what a hunter was then?
In the short story itself,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it was so in the short story, we're following a hunter actually bringing their child to the prison for their birthday, which is like very normalized in the society for the child's first hunt. And we were seeing like the different levels in the prison and just, I don't know, in the story, my goal was just to make it seems so normal that we as a reader are obviously like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? This is absolutely insane. How are they just treating this like it's a celebration to go and do this thing? So it's definitely interesting writing from the perspective of someone going there and was like, this is exciting. This is like what I'm doing on my day off. So obviously very different to write from Raven's perspective as she's like going through this very traumatic um time being inside of this prison. So it's changed quite a lot, but just like some of the details of the prison that I wrote in that short story are still in To Cage a Wild Bird.
So Raven is actually explaining kind of like the omniscient narrator is explaining how people will go on hunts
Mhm.
in the prison. And I thought that was like a really good, awful way to kind of make this so normal is you just pay to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's just like a society that has made it normal to the point where, they're selling vacation packages to go and do this thing. And there's like a resort with, restaurants and childcare and things like that. So it is just like a really messed up theme park in a way, which is like so, to us, we're reading it and we're like, this is horrific, but it just is so normalized to them that they're like, well, if you have the money to pay for it, it's what you do.
it reminded me a lot of The Sound of Thunder, where they go back in time to like visit or kill an animal right before it dies, like usually a dinosaur. And it's like a wonderful short story of like, oh God, don't do that.
Gosh, I need to write that down. I haven't read it. The Sound of Thunder.
Yeah, I think it's a short story and then they made it into a movie at some point. So it's
Okay.
out there. But I love this idea of it's a big game hunt. I imagine these are dentists, these are normal, everyday people.
Yeah, and it's just like what obviously when I was writing it, I was thinking about so many things. And we know, dystopian is obviously a reflection of things going on in our own society. And I was like, what is the most like obvious, in your face, like messed up fictional way that I can show like the level of like harm that we cause through honestly like consumerism a lot of the time and like things that we're doing. And this is like a way that you can't look away from. Like obviously this is like right in front of you. Harm is being caused. We are killing people for fun because we want to, because we want the experience, right? Um, yeah, but the society is just it was really wild writing it and like trying to come up with all the details to like make it believable in their world.
Well, it's interesting because Raven is not, she's in the middle of like
Yeah.
ethical standpoints, right? She was a starving kid and now she brings people to this prison.
Yeah, she is. And that, I really wanted to write about the morality of that, right? Like she is obviously a victim of this oppressive society, but she is also contributing to that harm in such a large way.
Mhm.
And she thinks she's doing it for the right reasons, and yet she's effectively killing people. So, like writing her journey through that and her character development towards like really understanding these things. Yeah, it was just writing her character in general. Uh, I learned a lot.
Well, I imagine it's also like, would I be willing to do that even?
Yeah. Like what are you willing to do for the people that you love in like a situation where your back's really up against the wall? And it's hard to know for sure until you're in a situation like that.
Let's hope we don't go that far.
Yeah.
um, she's also really interesting because she's doing this from a place of like she is forced kind of into this position where as a child, well, she was 16, so she's very young, but she got, what is it, two strikes with the law, and after that, if she'd have gotten another one, she'd have been sent to the prison. But she had to take care of her brother, so like, it's what would you do?
Yeah, and yeah, so her back really is up against the wall. And in this society, if you have two strike marks too, there are a lot of jobs that you can't get. They make you ineligible for those positions. So she really felt like it was her only option. So just like obviously throughout the book she really wrestles with the guilt that she feels because she has caused that harm, but she still doesn't see a way that she could have done it differently. But then just like being confronted, directly with the people and like what happened to the people that she sent to Endlock, you know. It's just very, I don't know, writing it was a process.
She's very forthright with this guilt, though, because the book literally starts out with the line, I've killed 127 people or something like that. And then like three lines later, it's like, and I'll do it again.
Yes. And even I know like she has some conversations with her brother throughout the story and she's like, I I would do it again. Like I'm not necessarily apologizing for it, even if I know that I caused this harm. And especially with, I'm trying to think, I don't think it's like a spoiler to say because it happens immediately, but just like her family, her parents are gone, but their relationship with the rebel group in the city just adds another layer to it. She's like, obviously they would condemn my actions. So that's just, I think that's what makes her so aware of it too, is she has all these people that she's close to actively looking down on what she's doing and, working for a greater world. And so, yeah, I think she's definitely very aware. She just feels like she doesn't have another option.
And like you said, she really doesn't. But she does work really closely with the rebel group in this world. So tell us a little bit about who they are.
Yeah, so the collective, so Raven's parents were a part of the collective before they were sent to Endlock and killed. And one of Raven's like closest, I would say she's like a mother figure in her life now. Her name's Aggie, is the leader of the cell of the collective in Raven's sector. So in To Gauge a Wild Bird, there are three sectors divided by class, essentially lower, middle, and upper. And Raven's in the lower sector, and Aggie leads that cell of the collective. And essentially, Raven has this setup with Aggie where Aggie tells her where like really bad criminals are, gives them information about them so that Raven can find them and turn them in. She does try to turn in people who have done heinous things, and in turn, Raven kind of helps Aggie find people that she doesn't think deserves a tough word, right? Because I would argue no one deserves to be hunted to the death, right? But people, like starving mothers who've stolen food for their children and are fugitives, and helps Aggie find them. And, we'll find out later what Aggie's doing with them, right? But essentially helps save them from the fate of Endlock. So I know, you know, Raven would say she's doing that for money because she gets money for turning in these people. But I think as readers, we see that she still does want to do as much good as she can. Um, but yeah, that's basically what we see from the collective at this point. And again, I'm like, what can I say? That's not
This is the difficult part about books like this, where the whole thing is kind of a build up until you see it, even like the
Yeah.
very beginning.
I know, and everything's like, oh, I know it is like very fast paced. So I think a lot is revealed pretty quickly, but I'm like, does it take away from the surprise if you know what's coming? I know.
Well, we'll just skip over parts as much as I can.
No, I'll answer as much as I can while not giving away anything big.
So I think the story is really softened by the fact that she's helping the collective in some capacity, but also by her relationship with her brother Jed, who is the person who originally gets sent to Endlock at the beginning of the story.
Yeah, writing. So their relationship, obviously Raven would do anything for him. She is essentially like sacrificing her morality in a way to take care of him, right? So it doesn't come as a surprise, I don't think, that she would follow him to Enlock, even knowing that probably I think when she goes in, she is about 99% sure both of them won't make it out. But yeah, writing that relationship and that level of connection that they have, I would agree, like softens her a lot because, if you are close to a family member like that and you try to put yourself in her shoes, obviously it's an extreme circumstance, but it's like, yeah, I would do like anything to help the people that I love.
I imagine there's a lot of people who've been in like positions of extreme poverty who've had to do many unscrupulous things. So I think it's relatable.
Yeah, no, and like Enlock itself, it is just the horror of it is that we're sending people that are doing things just to survive to the same place as we're sending people who have, murdered others. And again, I would say no one deserves to be hunted to the death, but that's just like the level that they've taken criminal conduct to. Like anything will get you sent there.
It's really horrifying because once Raven gets there, she meets a child,
Yeah.
and that's like horrifying to think of. It's
Yeah,
just awful.
I know. So in obviously in the world, if you're a minor, there's the three strike rule. So you get three strikes before you're sent to Enlock, and then if you're an adult, it's no. I'm trying to think of the right term, but like zero tolerance. You do anything as an adult, you're sent there. But I think obviously when Raven meets Momo, the child, she is very much reminded of Jed in the way that she still sees Jed as a young child in a lot of ways. Um, and I think that's like a big part of what starts to make her want to become a different kind of person. She's like, I knew it was horrifying, but this is a child we're looking at here.
And you tell us straight from the beginning that this is what happens. It's just different once we actually see Momo for the first time through Raven.
Exactly. And yeah, she knows exactly what she's doing when she's sending people there. It's just like for her, it's one thing to know that and another to be confronted with it, in front of your very eyes and like seeing those things happening.
So not only is this prison oppressive, but the whole government itself is run in a very particular way. There's three council members that kind of dictate everything, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So yes, so there is a counselor in each of the sectors, and they, yeah, enforce the law. I mean, there's a guard that works under them that is actually enforcing the law, but they make the law, and they formed after like the United States went through a second civil war. And they essentially, to justify what they're doing, say, like we have these limited resources. If you can't even be bothered to follow the law, then you're not worthy of those resources. And all of us have to do our duty by making our world a safer place for people who deserve to live in it. But then, like alongside the council, you have the CEO of Endlock Enterprises, which is Farrell Coates. And he, while not, you know, a leader of the city because of his wealth and influence over the city, really is kind of a de facto leader of the city in a lot of ways.
It's interesting to see the prison is privatized in this story because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, the government's just clearly going to handle it. But no,
No, and I think like oh, when I was coming back to this story, when I had originally written the short story, I was, researching capital punishment and death row and that sort of thing. But when I came back to it, I focused more on mass incarceration and the private prison industry in America. So obviously, like you can see the nods to that here on a wild level. Um, but yeah, just the idea of that level of wealth controlling something like this and just, making money off of these lives. And it's not even the government doing it, it's the
it it's scary how real it is to like our lives as well. And it just I love that dystopian fiction shines a light on these things, but it's also horrifying.
No, it is, I know. And what I've dystopian's really having like a comeback moment right now, which it is really interesting given the state of the world, right? Like it's interesting that we would want to uh, escape into a world with horrifying things going on, but like I always think of it as there's just like this catharsis in seeing characters overcome these horrible things. And you're like, well, if they can do it, if their community can get together and do it, it really gives you hope.
I'm not going to ask if the series works out for everybody, but I really hope it works out for everybody.
Yeah. No spoilers. I hope so too.
I was crushed at the end of the Hunger Games when Primrose died.
I know. And I feel like I should have seen it coming. How long has it been since that series came out?
It's been a minute.
I'm interested to know if I had never read it as a kid, if I read it now, if I would see it coming, because when you reread it, you see the foreshadowing. It is there. I'm like, I should have known all along, but it hurts every time.
I was completely thrown off, and I was in my 20s when I read it, so it
Okay. Good.
it catches
She,
you.
yeah, it's one of those things where truly I've reread the series a few times, and every time I'm like, this is gut-wrenching. I can't believe it.
So you do draw on quite a few elements of like the Divergent series a little, well, not so much, but like the Hunger Games in this like political setup, but really nothing else is the same. So folks are thinking they're getting the Hunger Games too. This is not the case.
No, I like when I compare it, I'm like, obviously I was inspired by the golden era of dystopian fiction, the 2010s, like those series, like I know are what made me want to write this book because during when I wrote the short story, I was still reading all of those series. But I do think it's its own thing. I often comp it to like the Hunger Games meets Prison Break, just with a lot more romance.
Yeah.
Um, but it's still like very much its own thing. The Hunger Games comparison is just like, like a deadly, it's not even a game in this book, but it seems like an obvious comp, but I know like I've heard it since it's out on ebook right now. I've had readers say like, oh, like it is like different, but you draw some of the thematic influences.
Yeah, and I think it's done really well, so it's not overdone, is what I'm saying, which is
Oh, no.
really nice. Um, but I also feel like it's very Running Man-ish, and even that's got a revival movie coming up soon or ish. I don't remember when,
Running
but
back, I feel like a lot of them are getting remakes right now. And I'm like, again, it's just so interesting the time that it's happening. Um, I mean, I love dystopian, so I'm happy it's all coming back, but also it is horrifying.
just gotta live with it. What I really love about this is there is a romance in it, though, and it doesn't take the whole book to get there.
Yeah,
So that's nice.
not much of the book at all.
Um, when you were writing it, did you always have Vale come in right at the beginning?
Um, I'm trying to think. So I write so many drafts. So I'm trying to think. I In the second draft is when I made that change. So it started really early on. The first version of the story, she didn't meet him until she got to Endlock. But honestly, just looking at Raven's character, I was like, there's no way she would ever fall for him if that was their first meeting. Her character, I just thought there needed to be something ahead of time to like connect them in that way for there to even be a chance of something blooming between them.
He's an interesting character too. He's got a lot going on. We're not going to talk about most of it,
I know it's
but
gonna be so many giveaways.
he is a prison guard here, and you would think that would make him genuinely not good.
Yeah.
Um, but he does have his like good side, like
Yes, I know. See, again, I'm like, ooh, what can I say about him that's not going to give it away? I feel like you get a read on him pretty early, which is quite purposeful because the guard prisoner trope, I feel like toes a really fine line. So I wanted readers to know really early on that he wasn't quite who they thought he was. I felt like that was important for the story. So while like I wouldn't call it's hard. I don't want to even call it like a slow burn romance because they meet pretty early on. I would say it takes a long time for things to get to a certain level because they're building that trust, but I think it's fairly obvious early on where we're going to end up.
yeah, and just the way they interact, right? So like if you've ever read any type of book with romance in it, you'll know that these two characters are probably going to end up together in
Yeah.
some capacity.
It probably says it right on the back of the book. So
Maybe. But it's funny that you bring up trust because if I were Raven, I would have the most trust issues.
yeah.
Oh my God.
I know. I mean, to begin with, she's not a trusting person even before Unlock. She doesn't want her brother to join the collective because she's like, if anything happens, you can't be anywhere near this. Like, I'm not risking you. So for her to go into Unlock and trust this guard, so I needed it to be set up in a way where she really needed his help in order to achieve what she was doing. And at that point, she's like, well, what choice do I have? Like, I'm either gonna die in here or
It's one death or a different death. So just pick the death. um it so she does have this like she's in the dark for a lot of things for most of the book.
yeah.
Um which is difficult because if I had her level of trust issues, I'd be like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, like not I know. So it is like they just tell her she doesn't have a choice, essentially. I'm trying I know. And for her, she really is used to being in control because she's always, for 7 years now, she's been the one in charge of everything. So it really is just a transformation for her to allow anyone in at all and to trust Jed's life more than anything to anyone else.
I really enjoy well, enjoy is a strong word, but I really like the interaction at the beginning when she's being arrested and she meets the person who takes the bounties from her. And he's like, "Oh, really? You got caught?" But it's not like concern for her. And she's saddened almost, like a
Yeah.
resigned sad.
Yeah, because I know that was such a I'm trying to phrase it the right way, but just like she doesn't have many people that she's close to, and I think in a way, like because this person, she saw them as helping her in her time of need, but it was all of this society really comes back to money. So that was just her realizing like this is just another person that only cares about money, like no matter like the expense of human life, like which shouldn't be a big shock necessarily, but just like one of the only adult figures in her life from when she was a teenager and lost her parents that she'd seen almost every day. Um, yeah. So I think like that definitely made her more vulnerable going into Endlock too. Um, yeah, a lot of a lot of internal discovery with her as she's going through all of this.
And the beginning happens very quickly. Like the book isn't over a long time lapse or anything. It's it's pretty quick.
Yeah, no, I know all of it does happen so quickly. Between like obviously, oh wait, can I even say?
No, 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 you can't.
I keep being about to mention something and I'm like, oh wait, that's kind of a spoiler. So many spoiler. Basically, like you said, it just the beginning happens so quickly that I'm like anything that I say about it, kind of a spoiler in a way.
So I feel like
Like,
it's safe to stick to the political structure and
oh,
maybe the people on the outside.
yeah. So
Um,
I know I feel like I can talk pretty vaguely about most parts of it. I just keep catching myself. I'm like, wait.
um, so as soon as she gets to the prison, they have their first hunt almost. And she's included in that right away, right?
Yes.
So what makes her so appealing to be a hunted person?
Yeah. Now I'm trying to think of like the first one. I think so when prisoners are sent to Enlock, they're like ranked out of 10, and that determines like the price that it costs for a hunter to come in and hunt them. So there are like mostly hunters from like the top level of wealth in the society are the ones partaking in this because it's expensive. But there are others that come in from like the middle sector and will hunt the lower level inmates because it's what they can afford. So for the first hunt, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe someone else is about to be chosen, and Raven like essentially gets under the hunter's skin in order to make herself be chosen, because she wants to get out on the hunting grounds and like get the lay of the land and see if there's any route for escape out there, even though she knows obviously like being hunted is a severe risk to her life. She's like, well, I am going to be chosen eventually, and I need to know what I'm working with. So I think she mostly manufacturers being chosen.
It's not just the hunters though that want her dead. It's the other inmates because of who she was on the outside. So that's an interesting dynamic too.
Exactly. There are inmates there that she turned in as a bounty hunter, and that was, it just makes Enlock all the more dangerous. She's contending with the hunters, but also the people who are her peers in there. And very understandably, like they have it out for her. They're like, you're supposed to be one of us. Like you put us here.
Um, do you so you this is part of a series. Do you know how many books it's going to be?
So we're still in the talks. I'm contracted for two books right now, but I do see it being a longer, more than a duology, I will say. But I don't have an exact answer right now.
Okay. But the idea is that this story could be contained within two books at the minimum.
I don't see it happening. I would say it would need at least three books. It was just
Okay.
I know it's confusing, but
Um,
it it's kind of in the works right now.
how did you sell this book, I guess? Like who contacted you?
Oh, so I queried like a
Okay.
traditional publishing and my agent my agent's actually in the UK. She's the best. And she sold it for me. She wanted to sell two books to start. And I'm like, you know what you're doing. So
It's
but there are in some territories it was sold as a three-book deal. So there are some territories where it like, you know, so I do plan for the series to be at least three books. I'll say that.
I'll take it and any more you have. I
Mm.
kind of want to see what it's like from other perspectives too. Like not in this story, obviously, or like the trilogy, but like I think this world is really interesting. So I'd love to see like other perspectives.
I know. I've thought about it. I feel like there is a lot of spin-off potential. And and I do love writing dystopian, even though it's so interesting because, my friends and my husband that have read this book are like, oh my gosh, like how did you write this? Like not like just the level of horror, I think in a lot of way was surprising for a lot of them that read it. So like I wanted to say like I love dystopian, but that doesn't mean like it's always like a fun time like coming up with this stuff. But I can see like it is such a there's so much to say about
Mhm.
this world. I feel like I could go on. So I definitely see how there could be room for, another perspective in this some version of this world.
It's funny because my husband will say things like, why are you reading this if it makes you cry? And I'm like, you don't understand.
Well, so I also like even some movies like I can't watch horror movies. I don't like it. I have anxiety too, so that doesn't help. So I'm like watching these horror movies and it's like making me. So it is I get where they're coming from too. They're like, how can you not do that, but you can do this? And I'm like, I actually don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
My brain just doesn't love me today.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
are you working on anything else or just this series right now?
So I am working on book two right now. Book two is with my editor right now, and I'm kind of like half outlining something new that's different, but I actually just sent the pitch to my agent, so I haven't talked about it anywhere yet. Like actually today I sent her the pitch, so I've just
That's
been thinking about it for a
exciting.
while. Yeah, no, I'm super excited. I'm usually a very fast drafter, but I'm trying to take it slow with this other idea just to try another style of writing and see what happens. So I think it'll be like my background project as I'm working through this series and have some downtime.
So, you mentioned that you have a lot of drafts of these things. Is this like, are you just in the first draft or are you just in like the brainstorming part?
Of book two or the new idea?
Really, either.
Oh yeah. So book two, the first draft is with my editor right now. And then for this new idea, I'm a super outliner. Like I do kind of like a half draft almost for like my first draft, which is just a skeletal outline. But I very much know exactly what's going to happen in every single scene of the book before I put pen to page for the first draft. So I'm kind of in that stage with this new story right now. Um, and just fleshing out the world and that sort of thing. 'Cause it's more fantasy, kind of dystopian fantasy, but some not supernatural, kind of magical elements. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out, honestly.
I'm sure it'll change too. Like, this is not. Um, I always find it really difficult to think how people can write like skeletal outlines like you do, because I I think I'd get kind of bored with the idea before I got to it, you know?
No, I get you. I feel like when I do it, it is sort of almost like bullet pointy, if that makes sense. So like a lot of like I'll know like roughly what's going to happen, and then when I'm writing the scene, I'm really letting the character take over what's happening. So to me, it still feels like a mix in a weird way. Um, and sometimes things change like while I'm in the middle of drafting because I'll be like, oh, that doesn't actually make sense for the character, even if I want it to happen. Like it doesn't make sense. So it's a little bit of both, but I get that. I have friends who completely pants, is that the right term? I've heard different terms, like pants the entirety of their draft without any lead up. So we're all so different.
I just like how other people think. Like, I just love it.
Yeah. No, I do too. And it's like every single writer you meet has a completely different process. And I'm like, you keep yours, I'll keep mine.
I always just think there's a quote by Alfred Hitchcock where he was saying something like he has the entire movie outlined and shot in his head before he shoots it, and by the time he gets around to actually filming it, he was not interested anymore. So it was like
No.
performative.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't do it to that level. I would say like I have my kind of skeletal outline, and then before I sit down to write, I try to really visualize the scene. Like until that point, I haven't like seen it, if that makes sense. I've just been
Okay.
like, this is like kind of like roughly what I want to happen. Yeah. But I do always know the ending, and the ending almost never changes just because I think even if I had to write a draft and I only had the ending, I could get there. I just need to like something to work towards. So do you write and not know your ending?
So I typically write more nonfiction than anything. So I
Okay.
know everything that's going to be
Okay,
written.
okay. That makes
It's less like I have a really hard time with fiction because I just get lost.
sense.
I'm like, oh, I really want to look at how water reclamation systems work today and not write.
Do you go down the research like yeah, I find myself doing that sometimes too. And I'll have to be like, I've started, who did I see that suggested just making like a highlight if you need to do research and making yourself a comment and forcing yourself to leave it until, you go back through, and it has saved me so much time.
See, I want to be able to do that. I just like knowing things.
No, I get you.
I so I think it's T Kingfisher who's always like looking at really random things. And she knows like how big a rooster's brain is compared to its testicles. And this
Oh
makes
my,
it into one of her books, right? Um,
I have to share this knowledge with the world.
it's so strange. Um, but do you have any suggestions for people who've maybe not read as much dystopian, where to start, or some of your favorites?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many. I know I've already mentioned like I in the 2010s like dystopian fiction, like I do feel like what I love so much about those series is that they're super accessible, but it doesn't take away from the messages in those stories. You're still, those were the first really books I read in like middle school where I came away with questions and was really thinking about what the author meant. And so I think they're a great starting place because you're enjoying these stories. The writing's really accessible, but still super strong messages. So really anything from that time, I'm going to say the Hunger Games. You can't step into the genre and not talk about the Hunger Games. But also, Maze Runner, a lot of the books that you're assigned in school are great, like first dystopian reads. Like I still go back to 1984 and I don't know. There's so many. But also a more like fantasy-esque dystopian, the fifth season, and N.K. Jemisin.
She's a
Like
wonderful
what
writer. I do seem to recall there being quite a few dystopian fiction um, books put out in the early 2010s, but they seem to be geared towards younger audiences. And
Yeah.
your book, the main character's in her 20s and she's got a lot of emotion, but it's not like teenager emotion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it is different. And I feel like when I know there are books like dystopian books at the same level. I think they're coming out. I'm waiting for another one called Conform to come out in this genre. I think in a couple of months it comes out. So I think this um level of adult dystopian is what's coming back right now. But also I know, Chloe Gong is releasing Cold Wire and that's YA dystopian. But I think a lot of dystopian fiction, even YA, plays really well for adult
Yeah.
readers still, which is what I love about the genre too. But yes, Raven is 23. It is an adult novel. I do want to make that clear.
There are a lot of things that happen.
There are
So,
things that
um, I do think YA dystopian can get away with a lot because kids in particular are resilient. And we tend to damage them in books in specific ways.
yeah. Um, I know we really do. I'm thinking back on all the books that I that I read at the time. And you're like, wow, there is a lot
But I
going
mean,
on.
as a child, I could see myself in every one of them, like
Yeah. The characters, you really do resonate with the characters. I feel like that's the most important thing. If you can like connect with what the character is going through, you're obviously connecting with the message of the story more. So that's always the goal.
um I think people are really going to love it and I really hope this turns into a trilogy or more. So,
Yeah. More coming your way.
if anybody out there has not yet read or heard of To Cage a Wild Bird, it is out on ebook and then the physical book won't be out until March though, correct?
In the US, yep. In the
Oh.
UK, it comes out in November, and then internationally, November, December. The release date's kind of all over the place, but in the US, March 2026.
And that one looks like it's going to be really pretty, lots of decoration on the book itself.
Yeah, the designers did an amazing job. I am in love with it. It's so pretty.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me, Brooke.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Um, like I said, go buy or check out To Cage a Wild Bird. And I hope everybody has a lovely day. Thanks. Bye.